Welcome, everyone. We're just going to wait a few more minutes until everybody that is speaking shows up, except maybe one speaker will be a little bit later. Thank you for joining us again today. For those of you who have been involved in the 16 days of activism, it's been amazing. So many powerful messages from all around the world. And we look forward to continuing to make a difference where we are. So unfortunately, Maria is not able to be with us today, so she asked me to step in as moderator. I'm not Maria, but I will do my best, and we will continue on with our activism and our sharing information. So I know we have people from Kenya in the house, and we will also have someone from Estonia joining us this morning. And Monica and I are joining you from Canada, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, we are in Edmonton, where weather is a little different than where you are right now, a bit.
Yes, we're supposed to be getting freezing rain today. Not looking forward to that. Yes, men champions in the room. Welcome, welcome. Uncle Charles, is there someone there wanting to share something? We can hear you talking a little bit, but can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm Christopher, a men champion, and I like the program, and we are also very much interested to learn more as we continue discussing issues affecting gender-based violence.
Thank you, Christopher. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you are doing there in Kenya.
Thank you, Beth.
I'm Isaac Munga, the bishop.
Welcome, Bishop.
I just want to thank you for the program. I'm also a learner today. We are enjoying the program. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for standing up against gender-based violence with us.
Thank you.
All right, so I see Stella is here, and Banja is here. I'm still waiting for a couple more speakers, but maybe I'll go ahead with the introductions. And we'll see how things go.
Read the what we're gonna do today.
What? Okay, give you the overview.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Monica. All right, so this is what I was asked to do. We're going to start with introductions of 4 lawyers from different places around the world, 3 from Kenya and 1 from Estonia. Then they're going to discuss the basic definition of what a policy is, what a policy protocol and instrument is, and share examples with us so that we understand a little better the work that they are doing. And then each of them is going to, well, we're going to have a presentation from Pile from Estonia. And then different protocols are going to be discussed. Lolian will expound about the Maputo Protocol. And then Pile will talk about the Istanbul Convention. Stella will talk about CEDAW. And Banja will talk about the optional protocol to CEDAW. And then we will have time for a roundtable discussion on how women are empowered through the legal framework and how optional protocol to CEDAW will tackle gender inequality, highlighting gaps in other instruments. And then closing recommendations. So how we can make a difference using the protocols that are in place. I'm just going to open the chat so I'm aware of what people are adding to the conversation. All right, so we are going to start with some introductions. So Lillian Kenyali is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, a mentor, facilitator, a seasoned trainer who is passionate about sexual and gender-based violence, girls and women's rights advocacy, governance, leadership, and sustainable development. She holds a Bachelor of Law degree from Moi University, postgraduate diploma in law from Kenya School of Law, is a member of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, awaiting approval, a member of the International Association of Women Judges and Kenya Magistrates and Judges Association, and is pursuing her Master's of Law at the University of Nairobi. Ms. Kenyali began her legal career in the firm of Namatsi and Company Advocates, and subsequently joined the judiciary of Kenya, where she has risen through the ranks to the position of principal magistrate and deputy registrar of the High Court, and is currently in charge of a court station. In that capacity, Ms. Kenyali chairs the Court Users Committee, which brings on board all court users and stakeholders to discuss pertinent issues affecting court operations and fosters a collaborative and mutual cooperation in the dispensation of justice. As a member of IAWJ Kenya, Ms. Kenyali was part of the technical team in the recently launched gender mainstreaming policy for the judiciary and has partnered with UN Women, Femnet, among other affiliated bodies, to create awareness and empowerment on women and children's rights. Ms. Kenyali has also been trained on the role of judicial officers in promoting the Maputo Protocol and promoting women's rights in Africa. Ms. Kenyali was also a member of the technical committee that spearheaded the development of the curriculum on the child and the law and sexual offenses, having been trained as a child care and protection officer. The curriculum has now been adopted by the Kenya Judiciary Academy in training magistrates in children and the law. From the training, Ms. Kenyali formed a child care and protection committee in the station she was in, whose mandate was to engage all the stakeholders in the juvenile justice agencies to formulate and implement best practices in the management and handling of children cases, and designed a template which is currently in use on the file register for children cases. Ms. Kenyali is a director and trustee, respectively, of Hold My Hands Foundation and Tuma Kineki Trust. During her free time, she volunteers in a number of not-for-profit organizations within her area and mentors young children and girls. She is married and a mother to 3 children and mentor to many young children. So we welcome you, Lillian Kenyali, to our platform today. and we are looking forward to hearing from you in a few minutes. We will also be hearing from Stella. And I know Stella is in the room. Welcome, Stella. Stella is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with over 12 years of experience practicing law. She holds a master's degree in public international law from the University of Nairobi. Her areas of specialization include international human rights law, public international law, and international criminal law. She is passionate about advocating for the rights of the marginalized, including women, on their sexual and reproductive health rights, affirmative action, and economic empowerment through engaging with policymakers and policy change influencers regionally and globally to advance human rights protections to the vulnerable while adopting positive emerging technologies in today's world. She is currently working as a prosecutor with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Welcome, Stella, and we look forward to hearing from you in a few minutes as well. And of course, we also have our own Linda Banja in the room. She is a lawyer, social entrepreneur, global mentor and facilitator, a seasoned trainer and consultant who is passionate on gender and inclusion, business and human rights, gender and international development, GBV SRHR advocacy. And Banja is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with over 13 years experience in diverse sectors of the economy. Currently, she is the co-lead GBV SRHR Pillar, Africa Women Leadership Network, Young Women Caucus, and the managing partner of Banja and Company Advocates. She holds a Bachelor of Law degree from Moi University, a postgraduate diploma in law from Kenya School of Law, is a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, MCI Arbitrators, accredited mediator with the Strathmore Law School, and is pursuing her Master's of Law at the University of Nairobi. Banja serves in various committees and boards, including Vice Chair, Business and Human Rights Committee, East Africa Law Society, FIDA, Federation of Women Lawyers in Kenya, Every Women's Treaty, Global Coalition Working Group Committee member. She is also a teaching human rights fellow, African Changemakers Fellow from 2020, World Literacy Foundation Ambassador, World Pulse Ambassador and Changemaker, Cherry Blair Foundation for Women alumni supporting causes on girls and women on thematic areas of education, sexual, reproductive, and health rights, gender-based violence, and social justice. Ms. Banja has also contributed in the academia by way of written articles on women's propriety rights in Kenya. We are so glad to have you involved in Hope for Her Global. Thank you, Banja, for being here. And I will share one more introduction with you, and then I'm going to ask Linda to come and share the basic definitions with us. So Pile will be joining us in a few minutes. She is from Estonia. Pile Pagan is an Estonian social justice advocate standing for women's and children's rights to live free from violence. Her professional background is business, finance, working as CFO of various local and international companies for 30 years. She is the co-founder of the first women's shelter in Baltic states in 2002, located in Estonia. Since 2011, she has served as head of the NGO. Internationally, during the period of 2017 to 2021, she served as board member President and Vice President of WAVE Network. From June 2023 to May 2027, she is a member of GREVIO. She has led several international projects that advance assisting victims of domestic violence. For the past 8 years, she has worked together with international partners for creating a framework of supporting older women victims of violence, as this is one of the most vulnerable, least accessible, and least helped groups. Pile is a coalition member of Every Women Treaty, a group working to secure a new optional protocol to the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which we also know as CEDAW, and is dedicated to ending violence against women and girls. We appreciate each one of you being here this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, depending on where you are joining us from today. And I'm going to call on Linda Banja right now to share the definitions of what we're talking about today. Banja, are you available? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thanks, Ruth, for the introduction. Allow me, for right now, be able to switch on my camera, but I'll be engaging in a discussion. I'll be on camera a bit later. So thank you for this opportunity once again. It's an honor to be part of this esteemed panel of speakers this evening. Now, a lot of people, I think, shy away from anything that has the word legal or has a legal connotation to it, because they fear that maybe it has something difficult or something that people cannot understand, or it's just a preserve for people who are, I'd say, what they call it, learned. But I'd like to dissolve that notion a bit. Now, there are certain words that we use because we are talking about documents. Let me give them simple words. Documents that are being used within the global scene. We're talking about legal instruments. We're talking about protocols, about legal frameworks. But what exactly does it entail? Now, a legal framework is a set of laws or regulations and rules that apply in a particular country on a specific thematic area. For instance, right now, we are talking about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So you could talk about a set of laws or regulations or rules that apply to this particular thematic area on gender-based violence or sexual reproductive health and rights. So what's the purpose of that? It's because maybe within a particular time frame, people within a particular segment have identified that there's a particular gap or there's a problem that needs maybe to be addressed using certain rules or regulations or laws or policies of such things. So how do they then tackle these issues that they've identified, this what we call gaps or loopholes that they've seen that there is in a particular area or particular society? So they come up with law once they have identified and they have numbers and they have different people complaining and have seen how maybe that particular problem has affected a number of people. Definitely they'll try and find a solution. So that's the basic essence of having a legal framework, is coming up with regulations or laws that are able to tackle or give a solution to that particular problem that has been identified. Second, we'll talk about a policy. So a policy is a system of guidelines to guide decisions or to achieve a rational outcome on a particular issue. So, for instance, right now we are talking about matters GBV, matters sexual reproductive health and rights. So we could come up, for instance, the issue that we're tackling mainly at this particular juncture within the GBV space is tackling gender-based violence that is technologically backed, and aspects of climate change, because that's what is affecting the GBV space. It doesn't mean that the others that were there before, or the others that have been there before, have not been tackled, no. But what we have, these particular problems that have been identified, they come and metamorphosize in different phases, in different angles, in different types. So how are you able to address that particular facet that it's taken? You come up with a policy, you come up with a document that provides guidelines on now the decisions that you made, that, like, for instance, we are talking about technologically backed gender-based violence. Within that particular frame, there are different types that it takes. So there's cyberbullying, there's stalking, online stalking, there is child abduction. So how are you able to address these issues that you've identified under technologically backed gender-based violence? So that's why you come up with now what we are referring to as a policy document. You've identified that these issues, and you want to have an outcome, that a rational outcome, how we are going to address this particular issue. Because once you've identified, definitely you'll have to come up with initiatives or steps that will provide a solution to those particular areas that you've already identified. Thirdly, people talk about protocol, because by and large, what we'll be addressing today are laws or guidelines, but they're of a different kind. They're on an international scale. So a protocol basically is an original draft of a diplomatic document. It can come in terms of just a legal document or a treaty that has been agreed to between countries and signed by different parties. So what is the essence of this document? I'll use a specific example that I used some time back. There's a particular facet of gender-based violence that it cuts across the board. You can find that somebody is being raped, but rape is not specific to Kenya alone. Rape cuts across the board. Somebody can be raped in the US. Somebody can be raped in India. Somebody can be raped in Kenya. Somebody can be raped somewhere in Zimbabwe. So it doesn't mean that it is a preserve of a particular area. So how are you able to ensure that if Ruth today goes to Estonia, for instance, or she goes to Australia, or even crosses from Canada to the US, there's a particular law that still safeguards her rights as a woman, that is not a preserve of her country of origin. So a protocol basically is a document that has been signed between countries, between different diplomatic entities, that basically covers a particular area, area that has been identified is an issue, a problematic area. So once that legislation has been signed inter-countries, it means whether it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can still be able to travel to any part of the world and still have the assurance that you are safe, and that there are still legal guidelines that protect you. And it's not preserved to your own country of origin, but it cuts across the board. It's international. So that's where you have different instruments coming up that have been passed within either regionally or nationally or internationally as well. So if I may go by way of example, you may use the example that we'll be discussing today. We have the Maputo Protocol, which is a regional document. We have what we call CEDAW, which basically covers a number of countries that are signatory to it. The difference between this and the national legislation is that number one, once a country, because it's not a person that is signing this particular instrument, it cuts across the board. So once the president or the representative of that country signs or accedes to that particular law, then it becomes law and it's enforceable across the board. It doesn't matter where you are, so long as you break that law or you feel that you're aggrieved in that particular country, then your safety is ensured by virtue that your country is a signatory. That's what we say, it's a signatory. Your president has signed to that particular law, and your country has agreed to be bound by that particular law. And that ensures basically wherever you are, whether you go back to your country of origin or you stay wherever you are, it doesn't matter where the offense took place, but that particular law is enforceable, and you can go to a court of law and have your rights defended by that law. Now, the other documents that I had referred to, I had not given an example. I like giving basic examples that we can relate to. So like for a policy document, it doesn't necessarily have to go outside your country. If I can use examples that we can relate to also on a daily basis is, for instance, if you're working in a particular company, your company, you'd want to have, you'd want to go for leave. So for a basic person to understand what a policy document is how, if you want to go for leave, there are different prescriptions that we made within that particular company. So maybe you'll be told you cannot go for all your days at once. There are companies that do that. Or you cannot have your leave days rolling over to the next year. So you can have a company having a HR work-life balance policy. So how are you able to ensure that you are not stretching it at the same time? Without your presence, the company will not be aggrieved. So in every facet of our life, there's something that needs to guide us or regulate how we work or how we relate or how we interact with ourselves and with the organizations that we are interacting with. So because we are having the 16 days of gender activism, within the companies, we have something called a sexual harassment policy. So basically, it guides how both genders, it's not preserved of women alone. We have men who are also actually sexually harassed. So the sexual harassment policy is basically a guideline within the institutions where we work. How are you relating with the opposite sex? What are the limits? What are the prescriptions in case you breach those guidelines or the laws? How are you to relate? Or what are the consequences of breaking those laws? So basically, that's what a policy document is. Then the other thing that I'll put an example on the legal framework, and I'll use what we are discussing today, which is basically the gender-based violence. So if we are talking about a legal framework, I'll use my country, Kenya, as an example, because within the GBV and the SRHR space, we have different laws that relate or ascribe to this particular area, this particular thematic area. So we have the gender-based, we have the Sexual Offences Act. We have a number of legislation that works on this particular area. So we have the Sexual Offences Act. We have the Constitution itself, that it talks overall about the laws and the legislation that are ascribed to this particular area. We have the correlating instrument legislation. We have the Penal Code. We have the Criminal Offences Act. So how are these different laws interacting with each other within this particular space to ensure that the citizens within that country are safe and that they're protected, and even in the event that they are violated, how are their rights enforced? I think from that, I'll allow the next speaker to proceed. I think Lillian will proceed because I'm not seeing.
Okay, I don't
I'm
think
not seeing
that
Pile.
Pile is here yet, correct?
No, she's not, but I've sent a message.
Okay. All right, thank you, Linda, for giving us an overview of what we're talking about today. So the three different areas, the legal framework, policies, and protocols, and how they all relate to each other. So I'm going to call on Lillian to expound on the Maputo Protocol and explain what that is and how that affects people in Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Lily Kenyali, for joining us today. You can unmute and put your camera on if you're able to. Are you able to speak right now, Lillian?
Let's allow Stella to proceed, then we'll come back to Lillian.
Okay, Stella. Stella is joining us today to talk about CEDAW. So go ahead, Stella. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for hosting me. Hi, everyone. I will talk about CEDAW. From the introduction that Banja has given us, CEDAW is an international instrument. It stands for the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination against Women, and it protects the rights of women and girls. It addresses protection from discrimination of girls and women. CEDAW, when it comes to international instruments and specific to women, it's the oldest. It's like the Bill of Rights for Women. It came into force it was adopted in 1979. And it was adopted in 1979 and it came into force in 1981. So far, it has been ratified by 189 states globally, which is a good step. CEDAW has addressed various areas concerning women globally in terms of violence. And when you talk about violence, GBV is at the moment is very broad. GBV is not just the physical or sexual violence. There are other aspects of GBV that affect women and girls. And CEDAW can say it is kind of progressive from the time it was enforced or drafted in 1979 to date. It is still alive. It's a live document because it has addressed and it still continues to address issues that face women globally to date. For example, when it talks of, it has defined discrimination, first of all, and what discrimination encompasses. It is very broad. I think it's the only instrument specific to women that has actually defined a discrimination, and unlike Maputo Protocol, but then someone else will talk about it. It has touched on poverty, economic empowerment of women, and I know for now, very many women face economic discrimination or violence, gender-based violence economically because of lack of opportunities, unequally paid labor. And this is even worse for women, say housewives, who their role or contribution in the homes is not really recognized as contribution because it is not monetary. So CEDAW was a first step in addressing that, although it has not really been effective. So I'll talk about the gaps that CEDAW to date is facing, yes, it has the positives because it came to address the challenges that women globally were facing. It is a Bill of Rights for women. One of the gaps is that CEDAW does not specifically address the minimum age of marriage for women. So because of that gap, some countries adopted it because it did not limit when young girls could be married off. So it did not really protect young girls from early marriages. And with that, of course, comes the harmful cultural practices. Many states have ratified it, but they have put some reservations, especially those that touch on religion and family law, that is inheritance and ownership of property by women. And that also is discriminative in the sense that there are women globally who cannot own property under their names. There are women globally who cannot inherit property from their husbands by virtue of them being women and by virtue of the cultural and religious practices that are I don't know, exercised in their states. So it has not really addressed some of the challenges that women face to date. Another challenge or a gap in CEDAW, many states, yes, they have adopted, but with reservations. So the key articles, like Article 2, has not been ratified by most states. Yes, we'll adopt it, but on this particular article, we do not agree with this. We do not associate with this. And these articles are the core of that convention. And it then goes to affect the women in those countries. It has not addressed the harmful cultural practices that occur, especially in African countries. For example, female genital mutilation in Africa. It is still occurring. It has not defined that as. It really defined it as, yes, it has mentioned it, but it has not really addressed it as a violation that goes to the core of the woman, the young girl, and therefore needs to be abolished by states. States are still practicing that harmful cultural practice because you find that these practices are intertwined with the religion, with culture, which are both at the core of what women deal with on a day-to-day basis. That is also a form of GBV, female genital mutilation and child marriages. It is a harmful practice. It is practiced by some states globally. I know in Africa, I can talk about Kenya. We have really tried to eradicate FGM in the country. Like Narok County has come up with a policy to address GBV. They have empowered the carters so that instead of doing this as a form of earning money, the women have been retrained on other ways of earning incomes, and which does not violate the rights of other women and girls in that community. There's a law that has been enacted it has first defined FGM as a crime, and now any person found to be practicing can be charged and convicted in a court of law. So there are steps that have been taken in various countries globally, but the challenge and the problem is still there because FGM is interlinked to early girl child marriages. So that is still a gap. The challenges when it comes to conflict, during a conflict, it is the women and girls who are most vulnerable and the ones who are the most affected in conflict. It has not really come out to protect these women and girls in terms of access to the basic needs of women, food, shelter, and for women, they are considered the homemakers, especially in African countries. They are considered the homemakers. When there is a conflict within communities or within a country, they are the ones that are the most affected because, yes, their men will go to war, they will leave them unprotected. Their homes, the places they consider homes, are also affected. Maybe they are attacked, they lose their valuables, their homestead, and they have to be like the providers of the shelter and the protection for even the young ones, the children, the animals. So women are much more affected than men. So it has not really protected or come out to strongly address GBV in conflict situations globally. And that, of course, it affects like the day-to-day living of women and girls globally. Access to justice for women has also not been fully addressed. Yes, it provides for protection and access to justice in the courts, but who actually accesses these systems, these facilities that are provided? This is the men. For men, it is easier. You find the challenges maybe like in terms of access, in terms of distance from where the home is to where they can go and actually seek services. For example, if a woman, let me say in Isiolo, in the village in Isiolo County, it's a county in Kenya, is raped, or even a girl is defiled, from where the crime happened to maybe the nearest police station, it's quite a distance. There are more vehicles. Maybe the victim has to walk for a long distance to access the nearest hospital and to report to the nearest, to get medical services at the nearest hospital. And that is also like a big distance. So it has not really come down to the actual beneficiaries or intended beneficiaries of these beautiful words in terms of realization of what it intended to achieve. So when it comes to access to justice by women, it becomes a major problem, because even in some communities, coming out to report of a violation of one of these rights that are well elaborated in CEDAW, you become like a mockery in the community. You're judged, you're re-victimized because of coming out to seek help and justice. So it is also a gap, and more needs to be done in terms of community sensitizations. The government needs to the governments that have ratified or adopted CEDAW need to come out with stronger mechanisms, tools to ensure that this woman and girl that this instrument was meant to protect actually gets to enjoy these rights. I had talked about like the stereotyping, the gender stereotyping in accessing justice. And I gave the example of a GBV, say an SGBV survivor. The minute you come out seeking that justice, first of all, you're judged like you made it happen. You are the reason why it happened to you. So that the victim does not actually get to enjoy that right, yet that state has adopted that instrument, and it's supposed to come up with legislation or other mechanisms of ensuring the intended beneficiary gets to enjoy what is contained in that instrument. One other gap that CEDAW still needs to address is addressing poverty, generally for women globally. It is women who suffer more, even in conflict, in terms of economic empowerment, because of these other issues of economic empowerment, lack of education for women. If you don't get education, you're not able to get a proper livelihood to sustain or to take care of your dependents because of what you are denied growing up. So because of lack of education, the women will not be able to get good and proper employment, and the woman will not be able to get adequate income or economic empowerment and the woman is not even allowed in some cultures to acquire, to own property in their name. So that is also a challenge globally. And because of the lack of proper education and awareness for women and girls, it affects their sexual and reproductive health rights. You cannot access proper medical treatment. And if you do, accessibility is a challenge one. In some cultures, you are not allowed to make some decisions based on what is supposed to be done to your body. So you find that it is the male, the head of the family, for example, who is required to give consent or directions on what is supposed to happen to the woman's body. And you find, like, in terms of family planning, the woman has no control over her bodies because of cultural beliefs and practices. So in terms of like giving birth, spacing children, family planning itself, women are not allowed, do not enjoy, actually the word is do not enjoy that, because the male dominate even that sphere of controlling what actually happens to the woman's body. So it is a gap, because yes, we have this document, it says you have the right to proper medical attention, to attend to a facility that is well equipped. But the reality on the ground is most women have not been able to enjoy those guaranteed rights in this document, in this instrument, because the governments that have adopted this instrument have not actually materialized the rights guaranteed, so that the beneficiaries, who are the women, can enjoy fully what is contained in the document. This also applies to land ownership, access to land, property, that is property, negotiating for better employment terms for the women. It becomes a challenge. And this also comes in the form of representation in political spheres or in management positions. Yes, there have been advancements in leadership in political spaces for women. Like in the case of Rwanda has more women parliamentarians or women in power, in positions in government, in parliament, as opposed to men. It is a good step. But Rwanda and Mozambique, that is like a small percentage of the global countries, representations, and where we expect women to be now. This is like over 40 years after the enactment of this instrument. So more still needs to be done to empower women, because for sure, if more women are given these spaces, these political spaces, they are more able to advocate for enhancement of the rights of women, which is also beneficial to the women on the ground and the young girls. This convention has not really, it has mentioned like protection of women in cases of trafficking of women as labor, as sources of labor. But that is still a problem even now, because of lack of education, women can be lured, women and young girls can be lured to get jobs, just say better opportunities outside their country, but because they do not have the negotiating power on what they're expected to do, what is expected of them wherever they're going to work, they are trafficked. They go to other countries, they are mistreated, some die because they're not sure of whatever they were promised is not what is actually what they're actually doing. Some are forced into prostitution. Child labor also comes into play because young girls are lumped together and trafficked. So it has not been able to address trafficking of women and girls who go out to seek for better employment, better living standards for themselves. But the treaty, the convention has been, it has been a success. It has some gains. I talked about more representation of women in the decision-making platforms, and I gave the example of Rwanda. Kenya has introduced the 2/3 gender rule in the 2010 constitution. It is progressive. It has not yet been attained, but yes, women are given more opportunities in the leadership roles. They are nominated members of parliament, senators, in government now. So it is a plus. It's a good step forward for women. There has been gain in education and health because countries are making policies to ensure that education is not only for boys, it is also accessible to girls, especially girls in pastoralist communities and communities that practice the harmful cultural practices. The communities have been engaged and educated on the importance of educating the girl child. So they find that the communities also incorporate and ensure they take their girls as well as boys to the schools. And this has also helped in reducing early girl child pregnancies because they spend most of the time in school. It has also enabled women to be better aware of their bodies and health benefits of not engaging in early sexual activities. And for women, they are able to make better health related decisions on their bodies in terms of spacing of children, where to access family planning, where to access. Actually, women have been encouraged to attend clinics and give birth in medical facilities as opposed to giving birth at home because of the risks that are involved. So it is a gain. Women have also been empowered economically because now they can be able to own property. In some countries, they can utilize the family land to generate an income for themselves, and they're able to support their families. In terms of sexual and reproductive health rights, although it has not been fully implemented, because the challenge sometimes is in the accessibility of facilities or services, or the poor services in some facilities. But some states have been able to come up with ways by using community health workers to go to the ground to find these women, the vulnerable, the expectant women, and to provide the basic services that they may require, even as they try to improve on the facilities on the ground and getting better medical facilities for women. What probably needs to be done? Yes, it's a gain. It has recognized that sexual and reproductive health rights violation affects women and girls. What needs to be done is more probably the strategic enactment of policies around that area, so that women can be able to own their bodies, to make decisions on their bodies and what is might affect their bodies without necessarily having to rely on to leave it to the men, or because of the cultural practices around that, to allow the community, especially the patriarchal beliefs, to dominate their bodies and what should be done to their bodies. So if more of this can be enhanced, it's a good document. If also communities can be sensitized more globally, in India, in Africa, about the rights of women and how it is going to benefit even the community at large, not just the women, but the community at large. It is going to be a plus to our communities. I know there are most of the countries that put reservations on the document. It was because of the intertwining of family laws in terms of property ownership and the cultural beliefs, and sometimes the religious aspect of it, in terms of their religious beliefs intertwined with cultural practices that do not allow women to own property. It is the head, and the head is considered the man. So if the man dies, the widow gets to suffer because this household, this property, this land where she was living with the man, she cannot be able to actually convert it to actual use economically, because the family will come into place and try to manage who is to own this property. Is it the male brothers of the man? Is it the sons? So she becomes disenfranchised. If these gaps can be addressed, it is a good document. It covers, it protects the rights of women and girls globally. And one other gap, although I know this is also a sensitive topic, not everyone is for it. It is silent on the LGBTQI. It is there, it is trending, it is out there now. some countries have embraced it, but this other gender, there's that other gender. They have not really been mentioned in that document, and some scholars argue that that is a major gap. It needs to address that because it is what is happening now. What other issue that has not been addressed is technology facilitated GBV. This is abuse that is made because of technology, that is emanated by technology. What we use daily: bullying, cyberbullying, stalking, doxing. So the instrument has not really addressed that. Yes, I understand it was formulated or enacted before all this came into force, but that is also a gap that should be addressed because it is a challenge that is coming, and it is becoming a big problem because it starts with the cyber related, and then it eventually culminates into something physical. That is all for my presentation. I think I addressed CEDAW. If there are any questions, I can address them in the comment section. Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you very much, Stella. You gave us a great overview of CEDAW, about the benefits that it has brought to women and girls, but also the gaps that are still existing, and we still have work to do. All right, so I have been informed that the Honorable Lily Kanyale is now available to do her presentation on the Maputo Protocol. Welcome, Lillian, and you may unmute and put your camera on if you're able to, and go ahead with your presentation. We look forward to hearing about the protocol and the benefits of the protocol.
Good afternoon. I don't know if you can.
I was hearing you, now I'm not hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, probably without the video. And we all take out the video in the way we can help.
I'm hoping I'm now audible.
Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Ruth. I really apologize for joining late. I was in an official engagement that I could not get out of in time, so you will have to forgive me if I repeat what has been said previously, because I have not had the advantage of listening in to what my fellow panelists have spoke about. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me here to speak about this topic, and also on these 16 days of gender activism. So as I have been introduced, my name is Lillian Kinyale. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I practice in the bench in the judiciary of Kenya as a magistrate. And that has given me membership National Association of Women Judges, Kenya chapter, and also globally. So in those two hats, we do a lot of work and sensitization, touching on gender-based violence, also sexual and gender-based violence. I'm here to talk about the Maputo Protocol. I'm happy to announce that I was part of the judicial officers who were trained on the Maputo Protocol. Which is, I think I got the tail end of what Stella has said about CEDAW. And I think most of the gaps that have been identified in CEDAW, Maputo Protocol tried to address most of them. So this is a protocol, the African Charter, a protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and specifically on the rights of women in Africa. In short, it's just known as the Maputo Protocol. And coming from Kenya and where we are right now, we have a constitution that was a new constitution, the 2010 constitution, which has given a lot of leeway and protection and safeguards to women in Kenya. There is an article in the constitution that has been dedicated to the rights of women as a special group, and we are grateful for that. But Kenya has ratified the Maputo Protocol, and the Maputo Protocol focuses specifically on rights of women, or rights of African women, and focusing on the unique experiences that African women have and share in common. I think Stella touched on a few of them, but just to name but a few, we have issues of early and forced marriages in some of our communities in Kenya. That is a harmful practice that targets specifically women, because the men are usually old. They're even old enough to be the fathers or the grandfathers of the women who are forced in these marriages. Secondly, there is the issue of FGM, female genital mutilation, which is still prevalent at this time and age. It's unfortunate that even in court, we are still receiving and registering cases of FGM. Both the FGM Act, the prohibition of FGM is there, and it has very, very strict provisions targeting to eliminate FGM, but unfortunately that has not been able to take place. Other than that, we have the issues of equal rights for men and women in an African setting. Africans basically, let me not speak for the entire Africa, but most of the African countries, it's a patriarchal society. So definitely men have an advantage over women. Married women have, there was a point where married women could actually not vote. And if they have to vote, they have to vote how the man or the head of the household dictates voting to take place. So I think we have come a long way as a country and even as a continent, because I know the protocol has been ratified by the majority of the African countries. It has been ratified by a majority of the African countries with reservations. Kenya has reservation on the Article 14 of the Maputo Protocol, and that article specifically talks about abortion. It talks about sexual and reproductive rights of victims of sexual violence. I think we are still protesting. I saw we have NGOs and CBOs that were still protesting to Kenyans' reservation on that article, because it is discriminatory. A woman should not be forced to carry a pregnancy that was a result of sexual violence. I think the Maputo Protocol addressed that issue very well, but Kenya did a reservation on that article, and I think there is a call to have that reservation removed by the Kenyan government. So I think I was just brushing through the Maputo Protocol, and it has very good provisions and protections that have been given to women and girls. Very specific. I think during the training we were able to during the training we were able to come face to face with the victims, some of the victims for early marriage and victims for FGM. I think that is the most prevalent form of violence or harmful cultural practice that Maputo Protocol is addressing. And the way it is done, even the way FGM is done, it is done purely for the benefit of the man. And from experience, some women who would now not be children and they have grown up, they're above 18 years old, they would be ridiculed by fellow women in the society into telling them that they're not women enough because they have not undergone FGM. And so we've had cases where women have been forced because the community will ostracize them. They will not want to involve them in important activities in the community because they are identified as women who have not undergone the CAT. And that is still happening right now in Kenya. In several parts, we have had women who have been brought to court because they have voluntarily agreed to undergo the CAT. We have had the perpetrators who have been brought to court with their elements. They have been found doing this CAT on women or children. Let me call them children because they are still below the age of 18 years old. And so despite the Maputo Protocol being enforced, despite as a country having very stringent rules on prohibition of FGM, it is unfortunate that this vice is still going on. And hence the reason why we still need to create awareness. And I think we have tried creating awareness. We have tried engaging the community in letting them understand the benefit or the dangers of FGM, the dangers of forced marriages, the dangers of early marriage to children who are not ready and do not understand the responsibility that marriage brings. But this is a culture that is deeply rooted in the society, and several approaches have been done, including involving community members, involving the elders, and involving men themselves. Because men, being a patriarchal society and men being the head, it has to take the goodwill of the elders, it has to take the goodwill of the leaders in the community to actually advocate for these harmful cultural practices to be eradicated. So I think what I'm trying to say is the Maputo Protocol came and tried to address some of the gaps that CEDAW had not touched on, focused on African women and their unique challenges that they face as African women. They don't have resources or sufficient resources to enable them advocate for their rights. They are not economically empowered to have a strong voice to advocate for their rights. So they may know their rights, but they need support to actually speak up and advocate for what they know is their right. So I think we need men, and it has worked in some areas. The community leadership, beginning from the chiefs who are in charge of locations, beginning from the leaders in the clan, have tried to come up strongly and discourage. But the word is discouraged because in as much as it is unlawful to do it, it's like you have to really persuade the members of the society or the men or the perpetrators of these harmful cultural practices that this thing is unlawful, yes. There is a law that prohibits these harmful practices, but still it's like they have to persuade and convince the community members not to carry on with this offense. So I think my take would just be that we have sufficient laws. We have always had laws in place. We have always had mechanisms in place to protect women. We have always had sufficiency in terms of implementing the provisions of the Maputo Protocol. In Kenya, we have adopted the Maputo Protocol under Article 2 of the Constitution because it recognizes international instruments. Having already ratified the Maputo Protocol, then that forms part of our law. It has been addressed in several other laws because if you look at the Children's Act, segments of the Maputo Protocol are found in it. If you look at our penal code, if you look at the Constitution itself, it provides a lot of safeguards to women. It provides equality equality and equity in terms of men and women and their rights. It provides that there should be no discrimination of any kind because of gender. So I think we have come a long way and we have very good laws as a nation. And I think even most African countries have moved forward. I know we have exceptions. We have exceptions because of the leadership in the country. So I would say we have officers, like for the magistrates, I can say most of us have been trained on how to actualize the Maputo Protocol, even in our work. Most of us have been sensitized on the need to be alive to these provisions and to even quote them and refer them in our writings and rulings so that we are able to grow jurisprudence in terms of the Maputo Protocol. All the justice agencies that are involved in ensuring that the provisions of the Maputo Protocol which are also enshrined in our law are observed, they have been equipped to do that. In Kenya, we have the sexual and gender-based, it's actually now called the Gender Court, the Gender Justice Court. It was launched, I think, a year ago. It is still trying to pick up because this is where all the justice agencies have been brought under one roof, and they focus primarily on gender justice issues. It was formed to actually fast track these cases that come before us so that the victim is not traumatized while in the system, while in the pursuit of justice, the victim does not also get traumatized again because of what has happened. And all these officers who handle the survivors have actually been trained. So I would say we still have a lot of work to do. We still have to go to the grassroots. We still have to engage men. Men are very key in this fight. Like, they need to be on our side because as women we have a voice. We have the will to do this. But if we don't have the necessary support from the leadership, if we don't have the necessary support from the men, if the men are not, their mindset is not changed so that they understand that we need to do this to protect our daughters, we need to do this to protect our women, our children. If we don't do something right now, then it's going to degenerate into something that cannot be controlled. So I think I would like to stop at that, unless there is an intervention on a question or a question that I need to address. I think I would like to stop at that. Thank you so much, Ruth.
Thank you very much, Lily. We appreciate you sharing about the protocol, the rights that it covers, and how it is sufficient, and yet there's still work to do. And that's great to hear that there is a gender justice court, and that women are, and girls, because girls are definitely affected by FGM and other issues. So thank you for sharing that information, and for sharing also what work still needs to be done as far as creating awareness, providing resources, how important leadership is. And we are so grateful that the men are in this place joining us and advocating for women and girls. So thank you so much to all of you for the part that you are playing in helping to prevent gender-based violence. We are very happy that Pile, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, has been able to join us. Welcome, and we are looking forward to hearing your presentation. So feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, I have a question. Is it possible that somebody else is talking before me? Because I'm trained still, and because everything was delayed. So I could get some more quiet corner if it is possible, which happens within like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, 10 minutes, I believe.
Okay.
If everything was delayed, like we couldn't get out of plane, now I'm in train, so for that.
Thank you for letting us know what's going on. Yes, I can have Linda talk about some of the optional protocols to CEDAW, and we will wait for a few minutes and have Pile share when she has a quieter space. So, Banja, can you go ahead and unmute?
Yes. Hi, Ruth.
Go ahead. We're getting some feedback from the men's group.
There's
So
somebody
if you
might be
mute your
on.
mic.
I think yeah, I'm okay, but the background noise, somebody is muted. Okay.
All right. I think we're good now.
Now, we've had deliberations. We've had deliberations on CEDAW as a document and on the Maputo Protocol. But definitely you get to realize that as years go by, as time goes by, there are changes that keep evolving, there are things that keep happening. And definitely we have to walk in tandem with those changes. So as Stella had discussed, CEDAW is a document that was came into force in the 1970s. And definitely we cannot maintain or retain those laws as they were that particular time. It's been more than, I think, 50 years since. So for us to be able to embrace the changes that had taken place during over time, a group of women called Every Women Treaty came and joined together to find if they can establish a law or a legislation that still has those gains that were found in CEDAW, but again have amendments or additions that could embrace the different changes, the different developments that have been made so far. So there was a proposal that was made for a document called the Optional Protocol to CEDAW. It has not been passed. It is a proposal that is being suggested and shared with different countries so that we can have these developments embraced within this particular document instead of coming up with a totally different document. So what are these things that have been identified along the way that could form part of this document? Some of them have been mentioned by Stella, some of them have been mentioned by Lillian, but by default, still I'll repeat them once again. So first, you get to realize because of aspects of certain developments like climate change, you find there are biological changes that we get to have that affect us differently. So with the changes in the environment, you get that our sexual reproductive health rights are affected. So you get, we found that there's the issue of our menses. You find even the children that we're having nowadays, they're much bigger than the normal. I'm not saying that the normal child or weight, but they're much bigger than, and they get to mature much faster than they're expected. So there are biological aspects that this document looks at. There's the aspect of pregnancy. There are changes that happen. We're having ectopic pregnancies. We have different developments within the pregnancy phases. So these documents looks at the promotion, the availability, and the relocation aspects of the pregnancy aspect, and also within the healthcare provision. There's a social aspect that the document also looks at. There's a patriarchy issue that is predominant in many societies and is not the prefab of Africa alone. It also, interestingly, is established within India and parts of Europe as well. So this document looks at the aspect of patriarchy and tries to look at how certain doors can be made to try and shelve out this particular rudimentary practice. So there are also norms and beliefs within our cultures that still are I'd say backward and need to be addressed and looked at differently. There's a psychological aspect. There's a personal mindset that different individuals have. Through the law, look at how the aspect of women and how they are embraced, be it from the different stages of development when they are young people, at their teenage, at their maturity, at their old age, because there are different things that happen to a woman within that particular, within the whole cycle. So the document looks at the psychological aspects. For children, you have aspects of child trafficking, you have defilement, you have online technological, I'd say, luring of children within the cyberspace. In their teenage age, this is when their minds have formed, their bodies are growing up. So we could have aspects of teenage pregnancy, early child marriage. Within the grown-up aspect, within the marriage age, you find there is domestic violence, there's widowhood, and the challenges they face because of culture and the different norms and beliefs. In their old age, particularly within Africa, you find there's the aspect of older women being killed because of the assumption of culture that they are witches or wizards in different places. So the document looks at these different facets of culture, the norms, and the different things that affect women within that cycle. Then there's the aspect of the glass ceilings that the document also interrogates, which are the personal, the internal, and the external environment. So they're personal ceilings that women give themselves, which also looks at how can we challenge the way we think as women. Why are we putting glass ceilings on ourselves? How are you able to look at different aspects in our lives that we can be able to go beyond our expectations, exceed limits, and also perform in sectors, especially STEM, where it's a prefab for men. So there's the internal and external environment, the internal within the family, within the communities where we live, and the external environment, the aspects of politics, the aspects of our culture, the social and cultural beliefs, the biological bits. So all these are things that are interrogated within this particular document. The other aspect that I think Lillian mentioned about was the aspect of having embracing men as equal partners within the war against gender-based violence, because we cannot talk about having laws, legislations, and laws, legislations, and different documents without looking at how we can embrace and work together with men as equal partners in this journey of trying to eliminate gender-based violence. They are our partners that, as we are able to work in this journey of trying to eliminate gender-based violence, are we able to have them as partners? Because we cannot say that we are going to have this fight on our own. We have to engage them, be it within the economic sector, be it within the social sector, even within the passing of laws. It's not all countries that have that opportunity of having female legislators, having a large segment of female legislators to enable them pass particular laws. So even within the legislative arena, within the political arena, are you able to inculcate them within this and get their support and have them work with you to be able to understand even what you're going through so that even when you're trying to pass or communicate or trying to implement something, it is a unified agenda, it is a unified work to have this established. Then there's an aspect of having gender-centered policies. There's the aspect of gender diversity and inclusion that has also taken place within different communities and our different aspects of life. So it is also partly also intertwined with the aspect of having men as equal partners. But how are we able to have both genders working together to be able to achieve the things that we aspire to, the things that we look at? So is it within the workspace that we are having gender inclusive policies that have men also appreciating the different things that women go through, so that even when we are trying to bring across something, they're also working with us. This is where these women are coming from. This is what they're going through. And for us to be able to achieve this, we are working together as a unified force. So I think also we'd also have to have that. I'll refer to the documents I alluded to earlier when I was starting. We'd have to have legal frameworks that are not gender biased, but gender inclusive, gender friendly, and that promote unified establishment of just 1 minute. Sorry about that. So unified establishment of structures, engagements, documentation, legislation that are inclusive of both cultures and are able to steer forward initiatives that are progressive and that are able to have promote aspects of inclusivity and development of gender inclusive legislation that prevent any kind of violence, any kind of discrimination, any kind of bias, and embrace a lot of equity in it. So then my last point would be also within the corporate environment, is to work to ensure that we are having policies, recommendations, and documentations that are gender responsive. I had discussed about the sexual harassment policies. So you find that in institutions, in organizations, in different countries, a lot of when we're talking about sexual harassment, it is regarded that it's only preferred to women, which is not the case. So when we have, I think most workplaces now, you cannot engage, or you cannot work without, as part of governance, you cannot have any kind of engagement without any kind of structuring or audit without having gender inclusive policies. So how are you able to embrace this and also inculcate and help men also appreciate that without you being there or without them being there, then you cannot be able to establish certain things, because for them to be able to change their mindsets, for them to be able to change internally, because at the end of the day, we all come from different homes, we come from different places, we have different experiences. But within, we come also like just the way we have come within this particular space. We are sharing different ideas, we are sharing different experiences. So it is these policies, it is these frameworks, it is these documents that when we are creating them, we are not creating them that it's just a woman who is being safeguarded, because a lot has been said that the girl child has been preferred in most places as opposed to the boy child. So when we have that aspect of inclusivity, that aspect of having equity in terms of what we are doing in the different cadres of life, then it enables us to be able to have policies, legislation, and frameworks that ultimately work towards the abolition and the elimination of gender-based violence. So maybe Pili can be able to proceed.
Thank you very much, Banja. I unfortunately need to leave, but I'm going to hand moderation over to Banja. And before I do that, Monica has asked me to remind you that there is a survey to fill out each day with your feedback. So we would appreciate you doing that. And now I would like to welcome Pile Sopagan to the community, and we look forward to hearing your presentation this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all that you have done to be here today. And we know that you did your best to be here on time, but life happens. So we are thankful that you persevered and you are ready to share with us. So feel free to unmute and put your video on. And I will see you.
I'm sorry, I can't put my video on.
Oh, okay.
I'm disabled, sorry.
Would you
Host
like
needs to do it.
The host.
Okay. Yes, thank you. First, I'm asking, because I'm in cafe next to railway, how well am I heard? Or how big back noise it is?
It's good.
It's good, yeah.
It's okay, good, excellent. So, yes, thank you. And again, terribly sorry for these errors at several levels. Anyway, I'm very glad to be in any discussion about Every Woman Treaty and about violence against women discussion, and how can we as activists and advocates make states to sign this optional protocol now. Previously, it was special, like separate treaty. How could we do it better, or how could we? What would be our strategies to do it? Because I know that Patricia and her team have been going around and trying to advocate for all of us, and as I can say from European side, that it is quite tough to do advocacy here in Europe, because here she always gets the response that, hey, we have Istanbul Convention, and why do we need additional other treaty or additional other convention or protocol, whatever, to sign? And I have been also in these discussions and spoke about what are benefits, even for us in Europe, but definitely globally, and we need to be front runners in global discussion when our homes are okay, because whenever like women's issues all over the world is very difficult issue. So the fact that we have a little like circle here where we are more advanced is not okay by all means. So currently, yes, I have heard about Maputo Protocol, and also it was very interesting to listen Honorary Lily about their work and how the developments are. And I fully agree with her point that we need to, like, different countries need very different approach how to communicate with politicians, because politicians are the key, right, in accepting, having discussion in the country, and having the like fast forwarding approval of the thing, of any protocol. And it was quite tough call in Istanbul Convention case, in European, like different countries still, even if we think that they are for women's rights as politicians, they are not signing it. Like Lithuania, one of 3 Baltic states, is not signing it, Istanbul Convention, or is not ratifying because they have some kind of religious opposition. So what I see, what we need to do, or what we are doing, and what Patricia is doing the most, of course, in order to get wider support for this protocol, is somehow for us to work more efficiently, maybe is a word. Like I think there is no need to tell what our conventions are, or what does it cover, or what doesn't it cover. Istanbul Convention is considered very good one. I know that Every Woman Treaty has made their protocol based on all our 3 conventions best practices. Therefore, it is definitely more advanced than it used, like that ours already are. So it would benefit all women and girls in the world. The key question is how do we give the message, or how do we forward the message to politicians, to be honest. I was in Geneva a few weeks ago, and I was talking to Estonian embassy, one lady who was really excited. She has met Patricia, and she said, like, it's so cool, and we really need to do this as Estonia, as a state. But then when it goes to like political fields, they just kill it. So in what can I say? I don't think I can give too much of a additional or added value to the discussion, other than doing yes, coordinated advocacy. And when we were like, I know that with Nelia, we were having discussions, Zoom discussions, like 3 people usually on the call with ambassadors of different countries. I do not know if it is possible, just like if we think strategically, if it is possible to do a similar thing where country or region representative is there, Patricia is there, and we are talking to these people at different countries who would be the best supporters of it. I saw, and I'm very glad that Croatia is on board, but I think Croatia is the only European country, if I remember it correct, who has said that they are strongly standing next to it or behind this protocol getting approved. I don't know, and now because it is Canadian event, I would ask from you that I know that Canada has ratified the CEDAW Convention, but you have not had any other conventions, like you haven't joined other convention. You're just working on your best knowledge estimate and agreement with the state how to protect women and children? Because I know in same terms that Canada itself is quite advanced if I look at different activities you are doing for this on this field. You don't have to answer it. It's just my question. So yes, we are struggling filling Istanbul Convention criteria. All countries. I just arrived to Helsinki, to Finland, where tomorrow we have presentation of our findings as CEDAW about Finnish accomplishment of all the convention, different parts of convention. And this is not even for the country who is one of the most advanced in the field. They have many points in our conventions that they are not meeting yet. Of course, when we are thinking about like joining the other conventions, the question is not the question, but the thing is that we are then already in line with so many requirements that new optional protocol gives, that it is easier for us as ones who have connected to conventions had. So as Banja said before, as Honorable Lily said before, we should strategize. We should somehow have more power into like real advocacy. And I know that grassroots organizations have very little additional energy to do that. And we need, as said, male allies to do the work and to convince ones who are not getting convinced by women, because it is just like some people just don't listen, right? And then maybe we are getting more like broader the base from where to have discussions with CEDAW again. Like why don't we open this optional protocol? I've also heard that CEDAW is struggling because there is so big support to this protocol. So they don't know exactly what to do with that question now. So I would say at the moment, I would stop for a moment and ask if there is if there are questions or discussion points I could address to, or because I wasn't sure. I did not want to talk about our convention. I did not want to, I know that you have talked about Every Woman Treaty. I definitely support this as an NGO. But how and what further to do, I don't know.
Thanks, Pile, for joining, especially I know you're quite probably having jet lag right now. But maybe if you, because we are mentioning all the treaties, maybe if you'd give us a summary on the Istanbul Convention and maybe its failures and things that are being embraced within the Every Woman Treaty from there.
Okay. Yes. Istanbul Convention, as the newest convention that is in live currently, has 4 pillars: prevention, protection, prosecution, and policies. So, and I think the same is how Every Woman Treaty is following their parts. So these 4 Ps, they cannot, one thing cannot work without another one. That's how we have seen, and that's how actually we when we are doing our audits in different countries about Istanbul Convention, what we see is that the countries can have some good initiatives or some good practices, but either this is not coordinated policy, either it is not good, reliable legislation, or usually, and what lacks the most is prevention. And prevention is something that has to be parallel to while you're working with a problem, because without that, we stay working with a problem, right? We only stay working with consequences of the crimes, and most countries do not do either. They don't do anything about prevention, or they do not do enough or regularly enough, let's say, because when we are thinking about prevention actions, or like we have now 16 days of activism, then any campaign needs money. And when we are getting money from some project, we are doing something, but this is not regular. States should do it, but states say that, yeah, we have a will, but we don't have money, so we are not doing it either. In case of policies also, when we are having, like, again, I'm talking about my country because I know it's the best, our legislation is nicely in line with Istanbul Convention. The problem is that the legislation does not get to grassroots level, which means that we as women support services are not able to actually protect these our women who are coming to us, our children, because these policies are not harmonized. Different stakeholders see their role differently and see differently what needs to be done. So although convention itself is excellent, the implementation is missing, and not missing much, but still missing. Therefore, we are working with tight hands behind ourselves. So we are trying to do our best as a support service, but we cannot really, because there is lack of money, there is lack of. So what we are doing at the grassroots level is both the Istanbul Convention and Grevio report about how state meets convention rules or convention chapters or articles. We are using this as a tool, like, constantly to do advocacy. You have to do it. Your state promised to do it. This is, and yes, we have also like very different, like all different kinds of violence against women. We have in convention, and we have legislation, like in Estonia. It is also FGM is criminalized, but at the same time, we rarely have any. We basically do not have such group of people in Estonia yet. So we are prepared to that one, technically, theoretically, but practically we can't even test it because we don't have cases. In the same time, we have cases about women and children are re-victimized in civil courts, in custody disputes. And yet, although we have legislation, it's not somehow getting to the court level. But we are moving towards there. So this is like good. Question is how. And what I see once we are getting this optional protocol done, what we should do as every woman treaty is to sit down all like current treaty owners with new ones and see which flaws can new protocol, like implementing the protocol, which flaws can it actually prevent from our experience, like how we went first, like we are getting attacked. Istanbul Convention is constantly getting attacked by different men's rights activists or family rights activists, because we are towards women, we are against families. We are using the word gender, even if it is not agreed, although it was agreed once it was signed or like approved first. So I think there is once we are getting the convention, once we are getting optional protocol fast, and I really hope we will during next, but I don't know, being realistic, next 10 years. then I think we are in good place with experience and our knowledge how and what to do and how to support governments to actually work better and how to switch arguments to use in advocacy to get more money in. Until then, we need to keep working on it, and we need to keep pushing the countries that are not tied with any similar convention to get it, to get behind this, and then see, because it is like everybody can say that it is cheaper to fund all these 4 pillars: prevention, prosecution, policies, and protection. That it is cheaper to get money into all these 4 pillars than to work with consequences that are when we are not dealing with violence against women, when the cost in Europe is calculated is extremely big. And I think we had like Estonia, which is very small country, 1.3 million people. Our expense is 0.5 billion euros to violence against women. And funding of for example, our NGOs is 1 million. So the weight is very, very, very different. And this is something what we need to keep in mind and what we need to think when we are advocating. We need to show them benefit, because like we as human rights advocates, like only benefit is like what we should talk about is that everybody should live free from violence and with their own will how they want to live, but politicians don't see it. When we show them money that is actually lost in your area, and with how little compared to that, you can actually get more people to workforce, get more people off from disabilities or social securities or whatever, then it is beneficial to the country. So I think that's like shortly what it is and what flaws I see our current convention has. And now I'm looking at chat because I haven't been able.
Anja?
Thanks, Pilar. Maybe we can sign off and have recommendations from all the speakers on why we should be supporting the optional protocol, starting with Stella.
Thanks, Banja. My final shot would be just as Pile has talked about, collaborated efforts in addressing the gaps in these instruments. I believe for the states that have ratified these international instruments, they have made milestones. What needs to be emphasized on is better strategies on how to implement these good documents so that the beneficiaries can actually enjoy the documents. So, strategic approach to addressing GBV, incorporating men in addressing GBV, and actually implementing the policies and laws that the various states have enacted to actually benefit the beneficiaries. Yeah.
Thanks, Stella. Lillian?
Thank you, Banja. I think I will echo what Stella has said. Just collaborating with the political class, with the leadership, with the men in the society to ensure that we achieve the goal of the protocol. And secondly, I think this is also a call to action on the Every Woman Treaty. I think touching on what Piles mentioned on the Istanbul Protocol, I think we have all these protocols that are touching on different parts of the global. But if we join hands together and fight for one treaty that is actually, that has all these provisions in the different statutes, we bring them together under one one optional protocol to CEDAW, and it has all these provisions, then maybe moving together globally would be easier than a section of the global relying on one protocol and a section of the other global relying on one international convention. We can join hands, have one convention, push for it, push adopting the strategies that Stella has just mentioned. Thank you.
Thanks, Lilian. Pile, maybe your last word for us on why we should embrace the optional protocol to CEDAW.
Short sentence. I don't think I can give a short answer, but like short, long answer is all women and children need to be protected. And when 74% of women are not protected, then what we are talking about. So ones who are in the bubble of kind of protection should help to step out next to women who need to talk to their politicians. So, and that's how maybe, and I'm just now throwing out that maybe we could look which countries that are similar to us, but far enough and have not ratified, would be willing, as civil society, would be willing to start advocating for the protocol, and we would just go and support them, because we are used to like do with our protocols. We can say that what are benefits. Maybe we are more believed than ones who are on their own country, in their own country, because that is also something I have seen, that it might help, but you never know. Like I personally would not go to very different country from ours, but with similar background, go and convince them, definitely. Thank you.
Thanks, Pile. As I sign off myself, I think my call for action to all of us is using the quote where we say, when you educate a woman, you've educated the entire society. So I think our first stop should be ensuring that we are protecting and safeguarding the rights of all women and all girls. And whatever cost it will take us, whatever action we need to take, let us rally together and support. Ensure that particularly right at this particular juncture, we are having the optional protocol to CEDAW. We give it all the support that we can, not just as individuals, but as a community, as different nations. And I'm sure we'll make this world a much better place. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Pile. I know you're very tired, but thank you for joining us. Thank you everybody who supported and who joined us today. Thank you. Back to Monica.
Thank you everybody. We are still in the 16 days and we are getting there. I know that this for some people is not an easy way. Know all the protocols and everything. We don't know where to start. But I thank you, all of you, the lawyers, the Honorable Lily, everybody, because as much as we can talk, there is a tools out there. Probably it's not the perfect tools. Probably we don't have the right ways to implement those rules and regulations and agreements, but we are getting there. And we have to continue to spread the voice. We have to continue to talk, to teach what is available, to continue to implement those rules. If we don't do it, as you guys said, is the other organizations are gonna try to take down everything that we have been winning until now. And that is why tomorrow we're going to talk about media and what is the role of the media. See how empowered, if media is used to bully women, young girls, we have to use the media to win this fight against gender-based violence. But it's up to us, each one of us, wherever we are, that we're going to win this. One woman, one girl at a time, but we win with that. So hopefully, wherever you are, you can join us tomorrow. Same link, same format. And I just want to thank you, all of you, for an amazing conversations that we have today. I call you again to fill it out. Our survey is for the speaker and for us to be better and to get the voice there. We're gonna post as well later our video in YouTube for those ones that were not able to see it in live. And well, subscribe to our channel because it's the way that we can communicate and get better. Thank you. God bless you all.